This morning, Matthew chapter 24, we'll be starting in verse 32, continuing with the life of Jesus Christ in a chronological order. We have been going through the life of Jesus as he's been teaching his disciples on the Mount of Olives. Remember, he left Jerusalem. He left the temple for the last time. He left this, basically the public ministry that he had. And now he's on the Mount of Olives, and he's teaching his disciples about things to come. And he had shared with them about the tribulation period. He had shared with them about the signs that would come. He shared about them about things to watch for in verse 29, the sun, the moon, and the stars from heaven. And he's been giving this warning and instruction to his disciple what to look for upon his return, because he was going to be leaving in about 2 or 3 days from where we're at now, but he would come back for his church and for Israel later on. And so we continue with that, and we're going to speak this morning on the parable of the fig tree. Father, we do come before you. Truly, Lord, our hearts desire to hear from you. So I would pray for everyone's hearts here this morning, Lord, and that you would speak to us and minister to us and allow us to hear your voice speaking to us, Lord, that we might understand what your words say to us and how they apply to our lives for now and in the future. As we go over your word, Lord, may the Holy Spirit give us guidance and instruction. Teach us, Father, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So, starting in verse 32, the parable of the fig tree, Jesus will point to the fig tree as the nation of Israel, or in reference to Israel. So it says in verse 32, now learn this parable from the fig tree. So after speaking to them about the signs that would come, he now directs them to learn the parable of the fig tree. So to learn means you got to go investigate, you got to examine it, you got to find out. There's plenty of verses that speak about this. Judges chapter 9 verse 10 does, Isaiah chapter 5 verse 1 through 7, Jeremiah 24, Joel 1 through 7, all speak of Israel as the fig tree. I'm just going to give you one that I'm going to read from. It's Hosea chapter 9 verse 10. We read there, I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first fruit on the fig tree in its first season. So not every verse applies the fig tree to Israel, but as you can see, this one and the other ones I quoted to you, they all do. They all bring a reference to Israel as the fig tree. So Jesus starts by saying, learn the parable of the fig tree. When its branches have already become tender and puts forth leaves, then he says, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see these things, the things of verse 4 to 28, when you see these things, know that it is near, even at the door. So a couple of things. I'm going to start from the bottom here. What is it? What's the it that he's talking about? I believe he's talking about the second coming of Christ, that it is getting near once you do what? Once you learn the parable of the fig tree. So what does that mean? It means that Israel was a nation, and then they were dispersed and sent out and no longer were a nation. And then on May 14th, 1948, they came back to Israel and became a nation once again. One thing to keep in mind, because often people don't get this, in Israel, there has always been a remnant of Jewish people in the land. Always. It's never been not occupied by Jewish people. But the bulk of them were sent out into different parts of the world. And after 2,000 years or so of this being sent out, the Lord in 1948 or 47 began to work on a treaty to make peace in Israel, so or a place where they could go back to. And on May 14, it was officially announced that Israel had become a nation. And so Jesus says, learn this parable of the fig tree. When its branches are already tender, meaning it's brought back to life, because through the winter it dies, and then when it comes back to life, which Israel did in 1948, and how many of you, most of us here in the Northwest, we are so blessed to see the seasons every single year, right? When I grew up in California, I didn't see seasons too much. It was hot and then it was warm. But it was never really cold. But you come to Oregon and man, you see colors and you see deadness. You see no life. That includes people. I remember when I first came up here and we came in October, or September actually, but October it was like 1990, the worst rain they had in a long time, and the only time you saw people was in the morning or in the afternoon when you were driving to and from work. And then summer came and all of a sudden it's like life. People are riding bikes, they're walking down the street, people are skateboarding, there's all kinds of activity, and then come November, bam, everybody's gone again. It's like somebody threw the light on and cockroaches just said, we're out of here, man. And so Israel becomes light again, and he's just giving the picture that everyone knew, and we should know it here in the Northwest, because we see the budding of the plants and the flowers and those trees that have lost all their leaves. I mean, you guys have all seen the leaves. You guys have trees in your yard? You've probably been raking up your leaves. You see leaves everywhere because they're falling because it's dead time. But come spring, all of a sudden, what do you see? You see these little buds start to take off. And you know, there are some trees. I have a tree, I don't even know the name of this tree. But it always brings forth the flower first and then the leaves. It's really weird. It's kind of opposite. Because normally you'll see this bud of a leaf come and then the flower will pop off. My rhododendrons always have the leaves and then the flower blossom. Well, this one tree I have, it turns these purple pink flowers and then they die off and then all the leaves come. But we know summer is getting near. And so that's what Jesus is trying to tell them. When you see the branch that has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. That's what he says. And then he says, and so you also, when you see these things, know that it is near, even at the door. So what is near? The coming of the Lord's return. So Israel has come back as a nation after 2,000 years. Before 1948, no one could get past this verse. Because until Israel came back as a nation, there was no return of the Lord. But now that it has happened, we know. That's why we believe we are in the last days. We are approaching the return of Christ. It can be here at any time. We don't know when or what day or what hour. We'll be in that next week. But it's just interesting that we can see this has taken place and it's very close. Then he says, surely I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till these things take place. Well, what generation is he talking about? Until what is fulfilled? So he's talking to his disciples. Is he talking to his disciples that they would see these things take place? We already know the answer to that is no. Why? Because they never saw any of those events take place. They never saw the temple being restored. They never saw the Antichrist come in and defile the temple. They never saw the catching away of the church. They never saw the abomination of desolation. Even though they had the temple there when Jesus was teaching this, remember? It wasn't until 40 years later that the temple was actually destroyed. In fact, some people believe this actual verse speaks about the temple. I personally have trouble with that. You could say that if you want to make it fit, and it could fit, but I have trouble with that because they're isolating only one event. And Jesus here talks about these things, not just one thing, but these things, many things. And so I believe it's more talking about end time, even though the destruction of the temple in 70 AD did have some similarities to what is taking place here. But not everything was fulfilled in 70 AD. Yes, there was the bloodbath of all the killing of the Jews and the sending away. There's a lot of things that you could say. You know, Titus going into the temple, and he did defile it with pigs and the blood of pigs. But it's not a complete fulfillment. So Jesus says this generation. Now we know the Bible speaks of a generation of 40 years. There's one verse that talks about the generation when they were traveling in the wilderness of being 38 years. There's another one of 120 years when Noah was told about how long before the flood would come, 120 years, and on and on and on. You can find many years for a generation, okay? Now the word generation in the Greek is genea. And the word genea, what it means is, it means an age. It can also mean a period of time. It can mean a nation, and it can mean a people or a race of people. And I personally believe it's speaking about the race of people in this verse. Not in every verse, but in this verse, he's talking about a race of people. So it seems that people fits better in this passage, that the Jewish nation or the Jewish people will not pass away until these things happen. What does that mean? It means that the Jews have survived for all these years. Other nations have fallen, no longer exist. Especially in Old Testament times, there are many that have fallen and have gone away. The ones that haven't are still here today. You know, I saw this video the other day that really took me by surprise. I was really amazed. The guy was talking about all the nations that had come against Israel and no longer became, either they lost being a nation or they had become a weaker nation. Egypt and Russia and all these things. The only two nations known in history to have not actually fallen away, do you know what those two nations are? It's really interesting. USA and Iran. God has still blessed Iran. He still allowed them to be powerful. And the USA is still powerful, even though we're a young nation. The rest of them that have turned against Israel have fallen to be a weaker nation economically, spiritually, and many ways. Except for when the U.S. came and supported Israel, we have been strong, and Iran has been strong. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Of all the nations, only two remain strong. And America, as you guys know, we are heading the wrong way. As anti-Semitism continues to grow in this country, and as we continue to turn from Israel, we are going to find ourselves becoming a weaker nation. Now, biblically, you guys all know already, the USA is not in prophecy. There's nowhere explaining about us and what we're going to be or how powerful we're going to be. Personally, myself and many others that I know, we don't believe the United States will be a strong nation when it comes to the end. We believe that the United States will turn from Israel at some point. And when that happens, God's going to take his blessing off this country. That's a little scary, because we've been used to prosperity and the wealth and the blessings of God in our lives in this nation. So when we think of something turning, let me tell you, one vote away. I'm not here to support President Trump or not support anyone. I'm here to tell you, one vote away, this country's going to flip. If liberals take over and bring in a global agenda and a socialist agenda, guess what? They've already said they do not stand with Israel. We flip, one vote away. We're 1 year away right now from everything possibly changing. Now, if President Trump remains president at the next election, it's no guarantee that it's not going to flip, because he could flip against Israel at any time also. So, what are you supposed to do? I'll tell you what you're supposed to do. You keep your eyes on God. You don't keep your eyes on the president or any man for that matter. We keep our eyes on God and what His plan is. And His plan tells us that at some point we too will be against Israel, because it says all the nations will be against Israel. And so Jesus, as He's talking here, He's talking about this generation that will be here. And right now Israel is here. Israel is a nation. And Jesus says, when you see these things, know that it's near. And this generation, I believe it's a group of people, the Jewish people, will never cease to exist, because they are the ones chosen in God's plan for the world and for salvation, which includes the world. And through this generation, these people, the Jewish people, are the ones that are going to witness all of this. You know, I've heard people say, are we that generation? We could be. I don't mean you and I specifically. I mean the culture, the generation, or the populace that's in this world today. Are we that generation to see these things take place? We know for sure the Jews are. They're the ones that are going to come and see the catching away, what we call the rapture. They're the ones that are going to see the 7 years of tribulation come in and in. They're the ones that are going to see the abomination of desolation 3.5 years later, during the tribulation period. They will see the return of Christ at the end. They'll witness the beginning of the 1,000-year reign of Christ and the battle of Armageddon. The generations of the Jews are chosen to see all of this. Now, the church will be gone. I believe the church is out of here before this stuff happens. But how much we'll go through before that, I don't know. But guess what? The rest of the world, the rest of the Gentiles, they too will be here to see this. That's why I mean, are we that generation? Is it our generation that's going to witness the end of, what we know as the life in the Spirit, you might say? Because I also believe once the years of tribulation come, the Spirit basically His work is done. There's no more refraining force to hold back evil. Evil will be let loose, you might say, because God's taking His people out of here. That's another teaching. But are we that generation? I don't know. I can't imagine us going any further than we are now. I can tell you that. It's crazy out there. You guys all see the news. You guys all hear the same thing I do. You see the madness and the craziness and the sinfulness and the darkness that is surrounding all over. You can't move from one state to another to avoid heartache and pain. You can't run away from sin. Sin is everywhere. The heart of man is truly becoming evil and only thinking of evil. That's why everything's up. All sinful things are up. Man is taking pleasure in the sinfulness of this world because that's what their eyes are on. We were talking yesterday in our men's group about what was the words we were using? Remember, Ben, the deprogramming or the man, I can't think. It's where we're being dumbed down. We're not being. That's one of the words, not the word we use, but anyways, we were thinking in the education system, there's not this growth that used to be. People are given less and less information, and part of that's because technology. I challenge you, ask your kids to read, what do they call that? I don't even know what they call that kind of clock. Analog clock versus the digital clock. Half of them don't know how to do it. They don't know that the big hand on the 10 and the little hand on the 11 means 10 to 11. They look at it and they know there's an 11 there, but they have no idea. It's interesting. Why? Because they've been dumbed down. And there's many other examples of that. And Jesus says, when I come back, you know what? I'm coming back for my people. I'm coming back for a generation who's going to witness all these things. And there's going to be a generation here of non-Jews that are going to witness all these terrible events. Verse 35, he says, heaven and earth will pass away. I want you to remember that. You should highlight that. Heaven and earth will pass away, will be gone. But my words by no means will pass away or shall pass away, but my words by no means will pass away. What does it mean? The word of Jesus Christ is going to happen, and it is very certain that what he had said will outlast this universe, this world. So Jesus is saying right here, what I'm telling you is going to take place. The earth will leave and be destroyed before my word is not fulfilled. That is something seriously to consider. I personally think we as Americans have lost the sense of the urgency of Christ's coming. I think we've lost the sense of always being ready, being prepared. Because the world and this country is living for itself. And the pleasures of this world are overrunning us so that we are blending in with the rest of the population of America. I was reading one of the articles from Voice of the Martyrs this morning. And the guy that started that whole thing, it's 50 years this year since he started that. And he was writing how he came to America once he was set free. It cost him $10,000 for his life to get him out of Romania. And that when he got here, people didn't like his story. As he began to write articles about different people that were persecuted and locked up and stuff, people said, that book's not going to go. People don't want to hear that stuff. And he says, I don't care. People need to know the hardship of standing for our faith. And he said one thing about America, America needs to know. Because they don't know. They don't know what persecution is. And what I'm doing is trying to bring this to their reality, because they need to know what persecution is. They need to understand the hardship of being a Christian. See, American Christian, we always think everything's good, everything's perfect, and we're never going to get into any serious trouble. Why? Because we claim God has our back. For salvation, He truly has our back. But everything else doesn't jive. He says, as the rain falls on the just and the unjust, alike it happens to us. We're not exempt from heartache and troubles. If that was true, He would be a respecter of person, right? Because everyone else who's being persecuted in all these different countries, is that not fair to them that we are not being persecuted while they are? No, I think it's coming one day to us. I'm sad for it, but I think we need a wake-up call, to be honest with you. I really do. I think we forget. We live life in the norm. And it's not something we're supposed to do. And Jesus says, you know what? Everything I'm telling you, it's going to happen before this world is destroyed. Then He changes the subject here, and He goes into no one knows the day or the hour. So first, one of the signs of His return is Israel will become a nation. It will blossom again. The fig tree happened in 1948. Now He says, no one knows the day or the hour. Now many, and I am one, I believe He's talking here of first the catching up, which is the rapture, and the second coming. So He says, but of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So He starts by saying, of that day and hour. Which day and hour? I believe He's speaking of the catching up, because no one knows when that's going to take place. He says, not even the angels of heaven. Jesus is saying, basically, I don't even know of that day and hour. As he was here in humanity, he has no idea. He says the angels don't know. No one knows. Only, notice, but my Father only. The Father God is the only one that knows. Knows what? Knows when the church will be taken away. Now, there are those who have predicted the return of Christ only to their shame. To their shame, many have predicted 2, 3, 4 times the return of Christ, only to be proven wrong. What does the Bible say about a prediction that does not come to pass? They are false prophets. Jesus warned about that the last couple of weeks, remember? Beware of false Christ, false prophets. But they're going to come and they're going to deceive you. He told us, be careful that you're not deceived. Daniel tells us in chapter 9 that when the 7 years of tribulation takes place, what did he say? In the middle of the 7 years, there will be the abomination of desolation. Right? Antichrist will come, present himself in the temple of God. He'll make peace first in the beginning with Israel and the nations. They'll be able to rebuild their temple. Offerings will take place once again. And everything seems to be going okay. And then 3.5 years later, what he does is he proclaims himself as God, desires to be worshipped as God, and then Daniel says you could pretty much count 1,260 days, 303.5 years from that point, Christ is returning. So if no one knows the day or the hour, how could there be the second coming? That's why I personally believe he's talking about the catching up, the rapture of the church versus the second coming. I have believed through my own conclusion, not because of the teachers I had, that the second coming is like a theater play with 2 acts. The first one, Christ comes in the cloud and he pulls the church up and they meet him in the air. The second act, Christ comes and he stands on the Mount of Olives where it splits, and that's his second coming. I believe it's one event with 2 different stages of it. That's what I believe. That's the way I understand it. So no one knows the day or the hour. Then he tells us what it would be like. But as the days of Noah had been before, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. What were the days of Noah like? For as the days before the flood, okay, what was the flood? That's the judgment of God upon those in Noah's time for living sinful lives, homosexuality, lesbian, drunkenness, you name it, they were doing it. Because remember in chapter 6 of Genesis, it said that the intent of the thoughts of man was continually evil. So the whole world was only thinking about their own sinful pleasures and desires. Now the things he tells us here is kind of interesting, because in and of themselves, depending on how you read it, they're not really sinful. So let me read that again. For as the days before the flood, they were eating, that's not sinful. They were drinking, depending on whether you're talking about Kool-Aid or vodka and Kool-Aid. So there's a difference. They were marrying. Is getting married wrong? No, God encourages marriages. And they were giving in marriage. When? Until the day that Noah entered the ark. So during the days of Noah, what's happening, life was being lived. The problem was life was being lived for only self-pleasure. In other words, there was no conscience, can't even think of the word. I mean, I can think of it, but it doesn't want to come out. Conscious effort to worship God. It was only eating, drinking, and getting married, and let's just have a party. Let's just do life and never mind about God. He says they're eating, they're drinking, and marrying, giving and marrying until the day. Am I even on? Until the day. What day? It tells us right here. Until the day that Noah entered the ark. So you remember how long it took Noah to build the ark? 120 years. 120 years to build the ark. That includes cutting down trees, planing trees, making lumber, all of it. Noah and his 3 sons and their 4 wives. And Noah and his 3 sons were busy preparing for an ark. Their 3 sons believed their father by faith. That what he said he heard from God, they believed. That is truly, to me, amazing. It's amazing that grown kids would trust their father so much that it had never rained on the earth before. There had never been anything like this event ever taken place before. Their father's cutting down trees, planing them, making wood, getting everything ready, and then some believe he didn't even have his sons when it started. They came after the fact. But at some point he shared with them what God was saying. And they fell in line and they began to help him and do this whole thing. And the world around him saw what he was doing, and I imagine they thought he was mad. They thought, what is this guy doing? What is he even talking about? And they just continued to eat and drink and get married and be given in marriage. And some believe the word given in marriage, man, they were marrying, divorcing, and remarrying again, like if it was nothing. Again, no consciousness of commitment. None of it. It was just life for me, and I don't care about anyone else. So they were doing this until Noah entered the ark. What happened when Noah entered the ark? And all the animals. You guys know the story. I don't have to go into every detail. All the animals came in. Everything was brought forth that God had come in. When Noah entered the ark, who shut the door? God did. God brought the door and shut the door of the ark. Until that moment, everybody was living for themselves, he says. And it says here in verse 39, personally I don't like these words, and did not know. And did not know. That's pretty interesting. They watched Noah for 120 years. For 120 years, I imagine he told them that God was going to judge the world. And it says here, and they did not know until the good word to underline, until the flood came and took them all away, and so also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. They didn't believe it. Our world today does not believe it. You talk to people about the second coming of Christ or the rapture of the church or the 7 years of tribulation, they do not believe it. They don't want to believe it. They just deny it. You guys are fanatics. You're crazy. You got too much Bible in you. You need to do something now. You need to chill out, man. This stuff isn't real. They do not believe it. When is the world going to believe it? When the church is snatched out of here. When the church is snatched out of here, they're going to start to get a clue. And then there's a small period of peace between the catching away or rapture of the church and the 7 years of tribulation stuff. And when that happens, they're really going to know, because they're going to see tribulation for 3.5 years. And after 3.5 years, they're going to see great tribulation. You got 2 parts of tribulation. Tribulation and great tribulation. They're going to know when God comes down just like the flood and judges the world. But that's when he calls Israel and awakes them out of darkness because they denied Jesus Christ as Messiah. And God's going to open their eyes, and the Bible says all Israel will be saved at the last. Right now, we're in the time of the Gentile. It's our turn to get saved. Not that Jews can't be saved, but the rest of the world. There are reports of people becoming Christians in every country in this globe. Iran, Iraq, Romania, Russia, wherever you name a country, people are getting saved. God is opening the eyes of the Gentile to bring them to a place of salvation. That guy, I wish I could think of his name, the voice of the martyr, he was 30 feet underground in a prison for 3 years. He saw a guard occasionally, but for most of the 3 years he said he was alone. And all because he believed in Christ. All because he believed in Christ. I'll tell you, it makes me wonder, how strong am I really? Could I survive being put in a prison for 3 years? Because I claim to know Christ? I hope I do. I'm not going to stand here boastfully saying, sure, I can do that. That's total pride to me. But I hope I am as strong as that guy is if something like that were to happen to me. Because it amazes me that to be underground for 3 years, hardly never talking to anyone, all because of your faith in Christ. It was during that time under the ground that he whispered a prayer to God about wanting to help those that were persecuted for their faith. And God released them and started this whole Voice of the Martyr thing. It's an incredible article. It made me think of the heartaches and pains we go through and what God can do through them. And I'm such a crybaby. I think, Lord, I'm such a crybaby. And yeah, look what you've done with other people. And who do we have today? We have people that won't listen, just like the people of Noah's time wouldn't listen. They don't want to hear it. We warned them that there's a judgment coming. Jesus is warning his disciple, listen, there's a judgment coming, and it's going to be like the days of Noah. These are the times we live in right now, in case you don't know it. We're living in these times of me only. Same thing. If I ask you to raise your hand, and I'm not asking to you, how many of you like watching the cooking shows? All about eating. I hear people all the time. Oh, did you watch this? And the greatest chef ever, and now they got junior chef and this chef. It's all about just eating and enjoying a meal. Someone told me just 2 weeks ago. I'm like, I didn't know you could cook. He goes, it's only because I love to eat. That's what he said. It's only because I love to eat. I never knew I was going to be teaching on this. I thought, wow, that's where we are, Lord, right there. And drinking. It could be drinking intoxicants. It could be just, again, having a soda pop and enjoying it all the time. In other words, just living life. Marrying and getting in marriage. We see that happening. 50% of everything, roughly. The numbers shift a little, but it's basically 50% of all marriages, whether you're born again or not born again, or flat out sinner or not a flat out sinner, it's 50% of marriages end up in divorce. And then remarriage. Why? Because there's no commitment, there's no integrity, there's no solidness in a relationship with Jesus Christ. So it's a sad statistic for the church. It really is. And people aren't going to know until the Lord comes back for his church. Why? Because people are unrepentant. They like living for themselves. They refuse to give up their lifestyles or to even acknowledge that it's wrong. I mean, I know how hard it is to confess myself who I am as a sinner. It took the Holy Spirit conviction upon me to do it, because I wasn't going to confess it on my own. It's not easy to confess that you're, a drug addict or a drug dealer or a homosexual or a lesbian or a gambler, an adulterer or a rapist or, a pedophile, whatever. That's not something easy to do. But when the Holy Spirit falls upon you, it's heavy. Because he's bringing that conviction within our lives. During the time of Noah, they've lost that conviction. Our world today is losing that conviction. People don't see what is happening around them. Sodom and Gomorrah didn't see it. They had the sexual sin. Remember why God judged Sodom and Gomorrah? Sexual sins, homosexuality, lesbian. They wanted to mate with the angel. They thought they were men. God judged them, took Lot out and his children, but he came and he judged them for their sinfulness. Why again? They had no repentance, no remorse. There was no conviction in their lives. The more you feed your sin, the stronger it'll take care of you and grab you and hold you and keep you in bondage. If not for the grace of God, we would all be lost. But he convicts us. He's trying to help us to understand how important he is. I'll tell you, we live in a time that's hard. Our kids have it hard. They don't have it hard because it's tough for them. They have it hard because technology is grabbing them. Technology has them playing their games and doing their stuff, and they don't want to read their Bible. They don't want to come to church. Another statistic I read a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, was how many kids are no longer active in church. Why? Because they don't want to read. They don't want to take time to know God. Why? Because they're too busy. You can change the words of playing games, on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, and that's what it's just life normal. Oh, what's he doing today? I went to walk my dog. Now I'm home. These are the texts. Foolishness of the mind. God says people are going to be living like that. Verse 40 says, then 2 men will be in the field, and one will be taken, the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken, and the other left. In other words, he's saying that people will be doing what they're doing, and when this thing happens, one will be caught away. Some of the interpretation is one will be taken away in the rapture, in the catching up, and removed from the judgment to come. Another one says that one will be taken away into judgment. Whatever definition you want, you can have. Either way, the result's the same. One's going to judgment, or left for judgment, and the other is being snatched away into heaven. I personally believe we will be taken away in the rapture. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 15, it says to us, for this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up. You guys know it's harpazo. It means plucked out, snatched away, or taken by force. It's the Latin word rapture. I told you guys this last week. These Christians who challenge you on there's no word rapture, just tell them it's a Latin word. That's all it is. The point is the church is going to be caught up, snatched away. It means grabbed a hold of quickly. Just, you ever play the game? Faster than that, but that's the idea. We're gone. The church will be gone. He said that they'll be caught up, harpazoed, taken away, together with them in the clouds. Will be caught up together with them in the clouds with the dead in Christ to meet the Lord in the air, and so we shall ever be with the Lord. Where do we meet him at? In the air. That's where we meet the Lord, in the air. Therefore, comfort one another with these words. Comfort, give hope to people about us being spared the final judgment of the world. God is not wanting us to be a part of that judgment. We see this in Acts 8:39. We see it in 2 Corinthians 12:2 and 4, and we see it in Revelation chapter 12, verse 5. We are spared this judgment. So then verse 42, Jesus tells his disciples, and I believe he's telling us that's here today, watch therefore, pay attention, for you or ye know not what hour your Lord is to come. In verse 36, what did Jesus say? No one knows the day or the hour. And now he says, I want you to watch. I want you to be vigilant. I want you to pay attention to what's going on. You can verify, Google Israel becoming a nation, and you'll see the start of what the Lord has been saying here. When the fig tree blossoms, know that it's near. So I wasn't around in 1948. I didn't come till 6 years later. I was born in 1954. I never saw Israel become a nation. But I know the history books say it. I know I could Google it and it says it. It can be verified. And when I look at that, I think, man, these things are getting close. Watch, therefore, and you know that the hour, what hour your Lord is coming. In other words, look for the signs, look for the events that are taking place that He's spoken about. Because these things are going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. We don't know when the church will be taken out of here. What we do know is that the world will be eating, drinking, marrying, and getting in divorce and living life without God, which we see today. Open paganism. I mean, you've seen the TV thing. You've seen Satan worship got their own church and they publicize it. Heathenists got their own stores and they're selling their heathenism. We see the stuff going on. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 6 says, therefore, let us not sleep as others do. Okay, the world around us, the non-spirit-filled Christian, they're sleeping. I was asleep for a long time. He says, as others do, but let us watch and be sober. Nephil, it means to abstain from drink, strong drink like wine. It has the idea of being of sound mind, because any type of intoxicant dulls your senses. It's proven you can have 2 drinks and your reflex are less. So the idea is be of sound mind, clear-headed. It's having self-control or having proper moral judgment is another definition of it. And so he tells us in 1 Thessalonians 5, watch and be sober. Pay attention. Be in control of your surroundings and your thoughts and your decision making and the things that you are a part of. We are to deny worldly pleasures. Titus chapter 2 verse 12 says, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lusts, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in the present age. So Paul, writing to Titus, says, listen, you need to deny ungodliness. Don't do what the world's doing. Don't be a part of the normalness of this world and its lust. He says, live righteously, live godly in this present age. This allows us to always be watching and not fooled by Satan's tactics or tricks. 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's always trying to catch us. He's always trying to get us to fall into sin. He will always tempt you to do something that is not God or godly. Whether it's going out drinking, having sex with someone, stealing, robbing, whatever. It's not a godly characteristic. He's always out there looking to destroy us. Notice the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Who's he going to devour when it comes to Christians? The weak-minded ones, the ones that are not committed to the Lord, the ones that you would say are on the fence. They're neither hot nor cold. Okay? Hot nor cold doesn't mean you have to be cold. It means you're hot with the fire of Christ in you, and the hot springs in the Colossae, that where they wrote this at, Paul wrote this, it was the soothing feeling of hot water like a spa, where your joints can relax and you can mellow out. The cold water, which were down below, were cold that it was refreshing on a hot day. And these two streams that they had, the hotbed water here and the cold here, they both served a purpose. And that's why Paul said, don't be hot nor cold. Either be hot or be cold, but don't be on the fence. That's what he said. Don't be on the fence. Don't be in the middle, because in between those two, Hierapolis, that's the city, between Hierapolis and Colossae, there's a stream where both these waters come in, and the water's lukewarm. And guess what's in that lukewarm? Algae and fungus and a whole bunch of other stuff, because lukewarmness is terrible. And the Lord says to us, you be sober, for the devil's walking around, and whom he may devour. And I think he's talking about those Christians that are weak-minded. 1 Peter 1:13 says, therefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Be watchful. Let your mind be renewed, the Bible tells us in another verse. Renew your mind. Start thinking godly, not worldly. It's up to us to read our Bible and allow God to show us why we should or should not be doing certain things, or participating in certain things, or belonging to certain things. As we read, we will get the conviction of the Holy Spirit. We might get the encouragement of the Holy Spirit to get involved in this or that. And it's time for you to stop doing that. We grow in the Lord. Verse 43 says, and know this, that if the master of the house had known at what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore you also, what now? Be ready. For the Son of Man is coming in an hour you do not expect. Watch. Be ready. Because if you knew when Jesus was coming, you would make sure you're ready. If you knew it was December 10th, 2019, you would right now be getting ready for his return. But he says you don't know. So you need to always be ready. Always be ready. I can give you the teaching on the Jewish wedding and the bride who's been preparing since the day she got engaged for her groom to come get her. Always ready, always preparing, always making sure everything's right for when the time comes. We need to be careful. We need to be watching. We need to be prepared, because the Lord is coming at any time, and no man knows the day or the hour. In Luke 24:25, Jesus said, see, I have told you beforehand. Listen, I'm warning you ahead of time. The people in the ark heard Noah say it. Hey, God has said he's going to flood this earth because of the sinfulness of man. He warned them ahead of time. Sodom and Gomorrah, the angel told, or Lot told those guys that were sexually sick, don't do this. This isn't right. I'll give you my daughters, he said. He warned them. Today, are we warning the people outside? Are we warning that, listen, there's a day of judgment coming. And no one knows the day nor the hour. But we know this is getting close. How do you know it's getting close? Israel became a nation. Now we're just waiting for what? I believe the next event is the rapture of the church, catching away. I also know I've been warned here, and you've been warned this morning. You are to watch, you are to be sober, and you are to be ready. All of us have gotten this from the Lord this morning. Father, we thank you for your compassion and mercy to us. We